All right, in this lesson we will be looking at dividing rational expressions, very similar to multiplying. So if you understood how to multiply, you're probably going to be okay here. Just if you remember your elementary days, when you divide fractions, what you really do is you really multiply by the reciprocal. So dividing by something is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So I think this is what your sheet looks like. And remember that when you divide, you can really multiply by the reciprocal. Okay? So that's what you're going to do. I am going to change these back so that they are looking like yours, because we need to pay attention to the denominators and still think about what things can't be 0. So because of this right here, remember you can't divide by 0, and if c is 0, the denominator is 0. So right now I know that c can't be 0 there. Because of that, I know that d can't be 0. Same thing over here. C can't be 0 here, d can't be 0 here. Okay, so I don't need to rewrite those, but that is something we need to pay attention to. And now what I want you to think about is I want you to think about, again, instead of dividing, I want you to think about multiplying by the reciprocal, which is what you're going to do here. And then the same rules are going to apply, where you just cancel top, bottom, or kitty corner from each other. So this p will cancel with this p. And by the way, now that it's set up like this, because of this right here, p can't be 0, and because of that right there, s can't be 0. Okay, so you need to think about that fraction both ways. So p can't be 0 and s can't be 0. Just when we get to that, there you go. I'm going to erase this just to clean it up a little bit. Okay? All right, your p's are going to cancel with each other. Your c squareds will cancel with each other. Your d's will cancel with each other. 1s will cancel with this and make that a 1. And then I have a 5 here that cancels with this 10. And this 3 cancels with this 6 and goes like that. So on top of that, all that mess, we have a 2 here. We have this 1s left. And we have a 2 here. So 2 times 2 is 4. And then we have an s. On the bottom, everything is gone except for the 1s, and I do not need to write 1 in the denominator. And then you need to remember that c couldn't be 0, and d couldn't be 0, and p couldn't be 0, and neither could s. So that's what that looks like. And I really should have that boxed in with it. All right. On the next one, I'm not going to go all the way through this one, but I do want you to pay attention to this fact right here. And that is that I have a t in the denominator right here that can't be 0. Okay? I have a t in the denominator right here also that can't be 0. Okay, so t can't be 0. And then I know that this looks a little bit different, but what this really is it is this fraction divided by this fraction. So another way to write that would be like this, the top divided by the bottom. And then of course you know that you can change that division to multiplying by the denominator. Okay, so I can change this to multiply, and I can flip these two back and forth, and when I flip that, then this r would be in the denominator and it can't be 0, and the s would be in the denominator and it can't be 0. And then I'm not going to go through this one, but that's what would happen there. So you would change this second fraction, just to make sure we understand, to 20t squared over 9r cubed s, like that. And then do your canceling and simplifying. And if you want to go through it, just so you know, I will tell you what the answer is. I am not going to go through it, but the answer is 4s squared over 3t squared r. And then t can't be 0, s can't be 0, and r can't be 0. Okay? All right, here's another one where we actually have to do a little bit of factoring to get this to work. But again, I want you to pay attention to what's in the denominator because of this and this right here, and I'm just going to kind of write this off to the side right now. I know right away that p can't be 0. Okay? And now I'm going to think about, instead of dividing that fraction, of course I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, and so it will look like this instead. Okay, and now what we want to do is we want to be able to factor these. Okay, So when we factor this top left corner over here, 16p squared would be either 1p times 16p or 2p times 8p or 4p times 4p. So you'll try either one. I will tell you it factors as 4p and 4p. And then the back is 1. So the only way to get 1 when you multiply two numbers is to multiply. Because of the plus right here, it either needs to be plus, plus, or minus, minus. And then hint, 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 it will be minus, minus because of that. So that's where I'm at there. The bottom left corner there, the 14p to the 4th, is not going to factor. The top right, 7p to the 5th, will not factor either. But the bottom right will. Okay. And so I can factor that 4p squared as either 2p and 2p or 4p and 1p. And it will factor as 4p and 1p. And then the 2 can either be 1 and 2 or 2 and 1. It will look like this. Because it's a minus at the end, it either needs to be positive negative or negative positive. And it will be negative positive. Now if you check your outsides, you have 8p, and if you check your insides, you have negative 1p. And 8p plus negative 1p does make that 7p in the middle. And that is what you want to happen. All right, so I'm going to cross this off and this off so that it's not confusing us. Okay? And now what I want us to do is I want us to start canceling some things. Okay? So this 4p minus 1 can cancel with this 4p minus 1. I have this 7 that can become a 1, and the 14 will become a 2. 4 of these p's will cancel with that to just make 1p left, so that's where I'm at there. So on the top, what I have left is I have a 1p here, and I have a 4p minus 1 here. So I have p times 4p minus 1. And if you want to distribute that p through so that it becomes 4p squared minus p, that's okay too. Usually, actually, we just leave it how it is. On the bottom then, I have this 2p, or 2 left, and I have this p plus 2 left. Okay? And then I already know from the very beginning that p can't be 0. Okay? But what I need to pay attention to is right here, even though it's canceled, it does make a difference. So right here, p can't be 1/4. And right here, p can't be negative 2. Because if it was that, it would make the denominators be 0. And that would not work. Okay? So there we go. All right, here's another very similar one that I will do here, and make sure you're okay. So again, we're dividing rational expressions. In this case, I want you to kind of pay attention to the denominators here. And actually, I'm going to factor this first and then switch it, I think. Okay? So if I factor this down here, I should have not crossed it out first. But if I factor that, I have a d and a d, and a 1 and a 2, minus plus. Okay? If I factor up top up here, I can pull a d out, or a 2 out, I'm sorry, and then I will have a d plus 3. Okay? Well, I will switch these, but with the second fraction, you know that this quantity right here will end up in the numerator, and this quantity right here will end up in the denominator. But at one point or another, whether you start initially or after you flip them, they're both a denominator, and neither one of them can be 0. Okay? So we'll talk about that. I am going to take this and switch it right now, actually. I'm changing my mind. Okay? So right now, my denominator became a numerator and vice versa. So at some point, they're both denominators, and that you have to pay attention to that when you're determining when you are determining whether a denominator can be 0 or not, or it can't be 0, but what quantity would make it 0. Okay? This quantity right here does not factor, so I will just leave it as d plus 3. And then up top, I have a d and a d and a 1 and a 2 and a plus and a plus. Okay? So that's how that works. Okay, now, because of this quantity right here, I know that d can't be 1 because of this quantity right here, I know that D can't be negative 2. Because of this quantity right here, I know that D can't be negative 3. And then this one was in the denominator originally before I flipped it, and so D can't be negative 1 either. Okay? So we're going to kind of pay attention to that. All right, now we're going to go through and cancel. So the D plus 3 can cancel with the D plus 3. And the D plus 2 can cancel with the D plus 2. And then on the top, I have this 2 left, and this D plus 1 left. And on the bottom, I have this D minus 1 left. Okay? And so that's how that all simplifies. And of course, we already figured out what my D's could not be. All right. And then I am going to go through this one too, just really quickly, because there's something kind of weird that happens with it. And then number 6, I'm not going to go through, but I will show you the answers so that you can kind of figure that out. Okay? So, here we go. We have this one right here. The first fraction does not factor at all, so I don't need to worry about it. I am going to change this to multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay? And then I'm going to factor both of these. So when I factor the top, I have 1 minus k. It's a perfect square. So it does factor as 1 minus k and 1 plus k. On the bottom, this factors as k and k, 1 and 3, minus and minus right there. So that's where I'm at. And I want you to pay attention to this right here. K can't be negative 1. And right here, k can't be 1. Right here, k can't be 3. And then up here, this one right here, when you go 1 plus k equals 0, k would be negative 1. And so k can't be negative 1, which I've already got that on the list. And then right here, when I go 1 minus k equals 0, 1 equals k, so k equals 1, so k can't be 1 either, or that quantity would be 0. So you've got all 4 of those there. Okay, oops, and I already have one on the list. I guess I don't need to write it twice, but there you go. Okay, so kind of side notes there. All right, now I'm going to think about canceling, okay? So k plus 1 and 1 plus k are the same thing because you can add in any order. 2 plus 3 is the same as 3 plus 2, so it doesn't matter what order those are in. And the k minus 3's are going to cancel. Okay, now what I have left is I have this. I have 1 minus k over k minus 1. What I want you to notice is this. This is positive 1. This is negative 1. This is negative k. This is positive k. Both of those have the opposite signs to them. So, for instance, if I just took this top one right here and I switched it around, what I would have is I would have negative k plus 1 over positive k minus 1. Do you see how one's positive in the denominator, it's opposite? So what I can really do then is make this be negative 1 times k minus 1. Like that. They are opposites of each other. And then those cancel, and I simply get negative 1. That all simplifies to negative 1 with, of course, these stipulations right here. Okay? And then I am not going to do number 6, but if you want to try it on your own and check your answers, you are more than welcome to do that. Here is the first problem. Okay, first step of it, of course, is to take that fraction and take the whole entire top, divide it by the bottom, which of course then you will switch to multiplying by the reciprocal. And then you will factor everything, and that's how it factors if you want to check that. And then, of course, worry about canceling things. So there you go. And then here is what the answer should be. And I did not put any of the things about what m can't be. So I will add that here really quick. M can't be 5. It can't be negative 2. It can't be 1/2. Or it can't be negative 1/2. Okay, it can't be those 4 things. So check that out, and we will see you next time.